Yo, yo, family, familia, JB here sending love. Wanted to record a quick video just to say that, as far as I can see, the key to non-duality is unresolvability. Unresolvability is a term that I believe was coined by Peter Brown. He used it all the time. My late friend and teacher, Peter Brown, incredibly lucid communicator of non-duality, and he used the word unresolvability to refer to something essentially the same as what the Buddhists, or at least many of the Buddhists, mean by the word emptiness. Other synonyms might be indefinability, inconceivability. Peter is essentially saying that if you look closely at anything, literally choose any aspect of your experience, if you look closely at it, you'll notice that it can't be pinned down as being this or that. It can't actually be defined or found to be any sort of fixed, solid, consistent, coherent entity. You don't find any tangible objects. If you look closely at experience, all you find is essentially this presently appearing instantaneous radiance that is unresolvable. All that you find is this continuous morphingness, this shiftingness. If you look closely, you'll notice that every moment is completely different from the previous moment. Every moment has never been seen before and will never be seen again. If you look really closely, you notice a literal infinity of detail, an infinity of pixelation, an infinity of information, almost like tiny, like numberless, countless tiny points of light continuously vibrating and dancing. This is much more obvious if you close your eyes. Can be a good place to start. If you close your eyes, everyone can see this dancing light in the immediate space that we would typically define as behind my eyelids. And people usually just write this off as kind of like noise in the machine or some kind of buzzing quality in my optic nerve or something like that. Um, but it's interesting to open to the possibility that what you're seeing there is actually a direct energy presence, a mysterious energy presence, open to the possibility that you don't know what that is. You don't actually know what that is. Let it be this indefinable, buzzing, dancing electricity, this buzzing juiciness, this morphingness. And notice how it is this entirely unpatterned explosion of what could be called radiance, what could be called unknown energy. And as you familiarize yourself with that, you can then start to open your eyes, and it's easiest to look at aspects of immediate experience that are not major parts of your current story, such as looking at the sky or looking at a wall or looking at the grass. And if you look at that with your eyes open, you can also find this same quality of buzzingness, this morphingness, this infinitude, this infinity of light and life force, this ever morphing vitality that is literally omnipresent. And as you become more sensitive, more subtle, more skilled, you can literally notice this in your entire full field of experience. You can discover that the full field of experience literally consists of this buzzingness, this morphingness, this continuum of unknown energies spontaneously appearing out of nowhere and that you don't know what those are. You can notice that they don't stay the same from one moment to the next. Every moment is completely fresh. Every moment presents a literal bottomless infinity of radiant energy, radiant information, unresolvable detail. And if you look closely, you notice the past is completely gone, the future is not here. All that you find is this instantaneous nanosecond, this razor's edge that we typically think of as now. But it's not a moment in time if you look closely. If you look closely, you can see that time is another conceptual overlay, space is another conceptual overlay that we place on top of what is fundamentally a seamless wholeness, a spaceless, timeless, seamless wholeness that is always right here. It's always right here. It's immovable. It only starts to seem to have space and time when you place definitions upon it. When you define this as a microphone, this as a laptop, then it can seem like there's a space between those. And in one sense there is, from the human perspective, there is. But what non-duality points at is a more fundamental perspective, really what it points at is that which is beyond all perspectives, which is unresolvability itself. And on the pathway to discovering unresolvability, non-duality often points toward more naked, more immediate, more bare ways of being with your present experiencing to discover a fuller range of its possibilities, which then allow you to more easily notice the unresolvability of all things. And another way to say unresolvability is just fundamental mysteriousness, an innate slipperiness in all of experience, where experience simply cannot be pinned down as being this or that. It's kind of like trying to nail down the ocean as it washes up on the shore. You pound the nails in, but then the water recedes. Or it's like trying to hold on to an ultra slippery water balloon, just slips through your hands. So we find ourselves in this instantaneous radiance of what could be called the eternal now. It's continuously morphing and shifting. It's always only in the instant. Literally, the beginning of this sentence is completely gone, can't be found anywhere. And the end of this current sentence also cannot be found anywhere until right now, and then it's gone. So we typically project and define this world of linear time, and we don't even realize how through our definitions we're solidifying what is really just a mental image that only appears now of a past and future, when really fundamentally, again, there's just this spaceless, timeless immediacy right here, just this immovable presence that is right here, this immovable clearness that presents itself as this myriad of multifarious, never-ending, radiant detail, juiciness, astonishment, vividness, literally endless, pure imagination. I mean, this is preposterous explosion of meaningfulness all around us, unimaginable intelligence. And it's simply that the thing is to notice is that it's overflowing with meaningfulness, but no fixed meanings can be found. You cannot precisely pin down what anything means or what anything is. It's erupting with meaningfulness, suggestiveness, innuendo, sensuality. It's overflowing with this lusciousness and this purposiveness. Everything simply is exactly as it is, but you can't pin down what it is. You can't actually determine what it is. You can't find any coherent, solid, definable object or entity before you could even pin something down or define something. It's already gone, because again, the arrival of anything is its disappearance. There's a simultaneous appearing and vanishing constantly happening as this buzzingness of infinite electricity just continuously morphs within this spaceless, timeless here nowness, this no thingness of pure infinity, which turns out to also be wholeness, unconditional love, unconditional freedom. It has space for everything, just naturally, warmly embraces everything, allows everything to be as it is, and is unconditionally free because it literally has no conditions. It has no definable conditions. This is kind of a funny way of thinking about unconditionality that most people haven't considered, but you cannot find any definable conditions here. And so everything is so free that it can't even be pinned down as being this or that or anything specific. Nothing can trap you because there isn't even anything definable. What you think are problems or situations are just defined into existence, and you can just stop defining them into existence if you want to, or you can see that they were never actually solidly defined. They pretended to be, but the definitions were always made of the undefined, made of unresolvability. If you look at your thought constructs, if you look at thoughts and concepts, what are those? They too are an immediately appearing spontaneous energy presence that is totally mysterious. It's totally etheric. It's kind of vaporous. It kind of dances here. And it's like, what is that? That's completely undefined. That's indefinability, unresolvability, inconceivability right there. And we just get confused. Thoughts are self-referential. They refer to other thoughts, and we get kind of hoodwinked into thinking that this narrative, this self-referential narrative created by thought, is actually reality. We kind of start living inside of our story, and we take that to be an objective reality, forgetting that we are actually this kind of space of pure awareness. Again, we are what cannot be said at all. Even saying space of pure awareness doesn't actually get anywhere close to what this is, because again, it's unresolvable. Even the most lofty words like awareness, consciousness, God, clearness, lucidity, void, lusciousness, whatever you want to say, all these terms are also unresolvable. They cannot be found as any definable, any fixed entities. And so you're just always left with the sand running through your hands. The sand running through your hands. You can never get a handle on anything. That's the name of the game with unresolvability. And yeah, but it turns out to be a glorious condition. It turns out to be a wondrous condition of everything being so free that it never even becomes anything solid or definable. It's just like this pure fluidity, pure freedom. And there's room for everything, and everything is completely embraced in this wholeness. Everything is completely at home in this wholeness. And there can even be incredibly warm, cozy bonfires of love that just kind of spontaneously ripple through this wholeness as you really connect at the heart level to this unresolvable wholeness, this unresolvable love that is actually here, that is the substrate, the fabric of every experience. And this discovery, it doesn't negate our typical human perspective. It doesn't negate anything. Everything is included. That's one of the beautiful things about it. Everything is included. Our human life is included. All perspectives are included. It's all right here, just as it's always been. And, in that sense, you get to have your cake and eat it too. It's just that everything is reframed, everything is recontextualized. What you previously saw as objective reality, you discover to be a partialized perspective. You discover it to be a set of somewhat arbitrary definitions that have cherry picked certain data points from the infinite field, made certain assumptions about them, and then projected a partialized perspective that you were previously living within. And this goes really, really deep. That's the crazy thing. This becomes extremely subtle because even a lot of spiritual teachers and spiritual communicators don't realize that they are still living in a story. They're still living in a solidified story. They've created a new fixation, a new reification, a new spiritual solidification, where they've taken all these esoteric and spiritual concepts and concretized them within their mind and made themselves feel like these are really real things that they could get a hold on. And, the most subtle forms of this are just like forms of non-duality, where people are talking about everything being God or everything being awareness, and they're not realizing that they've actually subtly concretized God or awareness and turned God or awareness into a new ground that they subtly believe they actually know and can get a handle on, and they have a belief that this now is God, this now is awareness, rather than taking that next step, which is like a pure leap into freshness, a pure leap into pure free fall, a kind of release into unknowing, where even these most subtle reifications and concretizations start to get plucked out, and even these subtle eternalisms, these subtle concretizations of God or being or non-being or nothing or void, that any subtle solidity or subtle groundedness that has been subtly or unconsciously baked into these gradually gets lasered out as well through the clear seeing of the unresolvability of even our most cherished notions, even love. And that's not to say that love doesn't exist. It's just to say that love cannot be defined or pinned down as a fixed entity. You can never get a handle on what exactly it is. And that doesn't negate love. In fact, it makes love more beautiful. It reveals that love is truly an unpindownable mystery. It reveals the true unpindownable mystery of everything. This is the true beauty of unresolvability. It's not nihilistic in the slightest. It actually reveals vastly more meaningfulness, juiciness, lusciousness. It is inclusive of all human meanings and human perspectives, and it reveals infinitely more than that. It reveals infinite unresolvable juiciness, electricity, aliveness, radiance, effulging forth spontaneously in every direction. So yeah, unresolvability is pretty damn cool. I thought I understood how cool it was, but recently it seems like there's been a further dropping away of some deep concretizations I didn't know were there. And it's like now I can see the coolness of unresolvability, the awesomeness, the bodaciousness, the totally tubular cowabunga nature of unresolvability. And it's like, whoa, this is really cool. This is really cool and really free, incredibly light. It really just kind of feels like floating through a sea of infinity as that sea of infinity. Because as well, as this unresolvability is increasingly seen to also apply to the self, you know, and this is kind of heavy-handedly referred to as the insight of no self, which it's not exactly that there's no self. There can be a perspective of a self. Sure, that's a, I'm right here in some sense, but actually if I look really closely at what I am, all I find is this unresolvable, unpindownable flurry of impressions, sensations, solidifications, colors, textures, shapes, feelings, emotions. And all these words I'm saying now are also unresolvable. You can't find or pin down what any of these things mean. So then you discover yourself to also be this unpindownable, unresolvable whirlwind of pure morphingness, pure infinity, that's just always right here, right now. And then you increasingly just feel yourself kind of melting into that pure infinity. There's really like a seeing through subtle levels of separation that were never really there. And that's the thing, when you create even the most subtle solidifications, the most subtle definitions or grounds, you're creating a subtle separation. You make the slightest distinction, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart, as I believe Song Song, the Zen master, said. And so, yeah, unresolvability is essentially about seeing through all of our most subtle definitions and distinctions, seeing that those were never really actual, were never really there in this seamless ocean of pure infinity. And then increasingly the wave really is seen to have always been the ocean, and just experiences itself as the ocean. And there's just the ocean, the oceanless ocean of absolute radiance, astonishment, miraculousness right here, right now. So yeah, that's unresolvability. It's really cool. Recommend playing with it. Look at anything in your experience. Notice that you don't actually know what it is. And if you really look honestly at it, you'll see that any aspect of experience opens up into bottomless infinity, a bottomless infinity of pure, unknown sparklingness, shimmeringness, buzzingness, morphingness. So yeah, let it unfold, let it unfurl, play with it is an invitation, a recommendation. Thank you for listening. Much love, much peace, much joy. Thank you. Appreciate you. Take good care. Take good care, my friend.